So I'm here today with Dominic, founder of Ask Lunar, a data partner for marketing agencies.
Cool.
I'm going to take it away from data, take it away from, sort of working with data and more generalised to entrepreneurship, founders. I talk a lot about self-belief at a young age, how people are almost afraid to get started, make the first move, and then once they've made the first move, continue and, gain momentum. What did self-belief and actually getting started look like when you first started?
It's such a good question, because I think when you are starting out, you don't have any evidence, you don't have any proof that what you think you're going to achieve is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that can be quite a disheartening thing, especially when you're starting out, and that regardless of age, whether you're starting at 16 or whether you're starting at 60, you don't have any evidence to actually prove what this thing is. So the thing that I always tried to do was just outwork that self-belief, essentially, just to create as much proof in what I was doing to actually justify the decisions that I was making. So, I was launching a new website business where I'd make websites for other companies. Okay, well, the easiest way to see if that's going to work or not is to see if someone's going to actually give me money for a website. Mm-hmm. That's proof. And then you take that proof and then you do it again and you do it again and you do it again. And then you just kind of outwork this kind of self-doubt that you have from wherever you start. It doesn't really matter, because the first website that I built was awful, but it gave me a bit of confirmation that someone's actually going to give me some money for this. I then took that money and then did it again and did it again until we got to a point where we didn't really need more proof. We had the evidence to show what we were capable of.
So it's almost like you're proving yourself by the quantity of work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's you have to outwork that self-doubt. And I think that whether that is, and quantity can often be confused with just like poor effort, poor work. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is, quality over quantity. So prove yourself with quality work, then focus on the quantity. So once you've nailed the quality part of it, mm-hmm. that's when you can scale it and go quality quantity or quantity quality.
And then post getting started and post continuing your journey to where you are now, obviously I know that you are big into, like Rory Sutherland, these mentors, these podcasts, but what is one thing that you had to learn firsthand, one thing that no mentor, no podcast, no book has taught you that you had to learn from just experiencing it?
I think that the first thing that comes to me is just how long this takes. I left university and I thought I was going to be a millionaire by 25. Spoiler alert, I'm not. But I think it's going to take longer than you think. But I think it'll be worth more than I believe right now. I think it's going to mean so much more when I start hitting those milestones, whether they're financial, whether they are, whether you're just starting out and you want to be able to buy yourself your first car, or you want to start in out and you want to hire your first employee, or, whatever that is, those feelings are so amazing. But no one can teach you that in a book. No one will. You can't teach someone how to feel that emotion and how to, you've just crossed a certain financial milestone. You've just hit, £1,000 a month or £10,000 a month or £100,000 a month. You put any number of zeros after it, whether that's financial or not, as I said. But, you have to go through that. But the other side of that is it takes time, and you have to be patient with this stuff sometimes. And sometimes you've got to know when to push it harder, and sometimes you've got to know when to, I just need to give time.
And I think one thing that a lot of people are almost having the problem with, especially when getting started, is the influence of social media, the influence of people, getting rich early or creating the almost fugazi that they are rich early. And then when, the results don't come and people realize it is a long process, that's when they sort of drop off and, can't see the road ahead. In terms of seeing the road ahead and staying determined, staying resilient, what is one thing that you found has really helped you to just stay in your own lane and stay continuing to compound that momentum, where you've reached a stage now where you're almost going towards your goals and they're more achievable than they once were?
I think it's, if I take a step out of that question a little bit, the world is changing so rapidly right now. And, you look 90 days ago, the world, especially in the world that we work in around tech and data and things like that, is changing so fast. It's so hard to plan, 3, 5, 10 years ahead. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I try to do is, okay, I've got this 5-year goal of where I want to get to. Okay, I've got this big target that I want to hit, whether that's financial, number of users, number of clients, number of, whatever that number is, keep that in the back of the mind. But then, okay, work back from that. What's the roadmap to that 5 years, or what's the roadmap to those 3 years? But then on a really micro level, what does the next 90 days look like? Because, you can make a pretty good plan after 90 days. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as you every quarter you sit down and you go, okay, what are we achieving in the next quarter, next 90 days, whatever that looks like. Okay, what are we going to commit to? What's the effort that we're going to commit to? And what are the likelihood, what's the results going to be if we just follow through this plan? What do we expect to be the result of this work? And I think if you break it down to that level where you go, okay, well, this next 90 days, I need to achieve this, or I need to post 10 bits of content a week, or, set those milestones in place. And that keeps you, that reinforces the effort that you're putting in. That reinforces it's hard. Okay, I don't have any clients yet, but I need to keep showing up on social media. I need to keep posting content. I need to, whatever that is, it just keeps you accountable to the action instead of the outcome.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of how important do you think finding a routine, finding a rhythm is in terms of helping you achieve that outcome? Like, I'm aware that you wake up earlier than most people, mm-hmm. but then you also go to sleep earlier than most people, and it's tailored to your life, and it's tailored to your goals and how you see those goals be achieved.
Yeah.
How important do you think finding a rhythm and finding almost a routine is in terms of reaching those goals?
I would say it definitely makes things easier when you can kind of find your way of working. So as you said, I wake up early. It means I also go to bed early, but I go to bed early because I wake up early and I'm usually tired from the day. So, it's not really a decision to go, okay, well, I'm definitely going to be asleep by this time, because sometimes it doesn't happen. If I've got an event late at night that I need to then stay up for and go to, that's just part of it. So what I would say is try not to build a routine or a structure in your day that is so rigid that it can't change, because you'll actually find that it works against you and closes off opportunities more than actually helps you. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons I wake up early is because no one speaks to me that time of the morning, which means that I have got 3-4 hours of uninterrupted work where I can just push things forward that I know that I need to push forward, that no one on the team is responsible for, no one outside of the business. It's just on me, and it's stuff that I need to do. And that's why having that window of time is so important for me, because it allows me that space. And it just so happens to be that that's when I'm usually the most creative. So it gives me time so that I'm not actually being kind of dragged into 100 different directions. It gives me the space to actually think clearly about, okay, what does the next 90 days look like? What does today need to do? What would I like to achieve by the end of today? It's things like that window allows me to do. But then also, staying up later than kind of 10 o'clock, what are you doing in that time? And if you're sat in front of your laptop and you're grinding it out and you like to work the late nights, then fine. I've definitely had a period in my life where I've done that. But I do think that a lot of people stay up late because it means that they just scroll on their phone, or they stay up late because their mates stay up late and they're, on some form of console and they're gaming, which again, if that's how you choose to live your life, absolutely fine. It's just not the way that I chose to live mine.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of that sort of work-life balance, in terms of, because a lot of people starting off will find that conflicting, where they're trying to do something, but then they have all of this noise that's holding them back. How would you tell someone to sort of cut out that noise and, would you say to distance yourself from your mates, cut out the Xbox, cut out the late nights past 10 o'clock? But then would that conflict with you know, a 17-year-old's work-life balance and almost their upbringing and that whole experience that they could experience, do you think that there's a point where, you know, starting a business young is a bad thing because people aren't experiencing that sort of life? And if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that between kind of 20 and 30, and, you know, move those numbers around however you see fit, but if I just use easy numbers, you've got those 10 years between 20 and 30 where a lot of pretty significant life things happen. So, you know, some people start families, some people buy houses, some people, you know, move to different countries, some people, you know, whatever that is, there's some significant times there. And I think there's a bit of a choice that you can make, and you don't have to do anything. You can let life be a bit more of a mystery. It's just not the way that I chose to live mine. But, you know, you can either live up your 20s and be going out and, you know, and there was definitely parts when I was in my early 20s where I was doing a little bit more of that. And that's, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But then I made a decision that, you know, I would rather work my 20s and work this time of my life as hard as I can, because I'm never going to have as much energy. I'm never going to have as much kind of clarity of thought. I don't have children, so I don't need to worry about that right now. And, you know, there's options for that in the future. But, you know, this idea of work-life balance is one that I really struggle with, is because I like to work, and work is a big part of my life. And anything that doesn't feel like the work for me can sometimes feel like it's getting in the way of me actually working. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I am actively trying to reduce, which is, okay, how can I remove the life admin out of my life as much as possible so that I can just stay on the work? And, you know, I did have to make conscious decisions to remove people from my life. And, you know, one of the best things that I managed to do was I gave up drinking, and the indirect benefit of that was I did lose a lot of friends. But really, like, were they friends, or were they just people that I went to the pub with and had a drink with? Mm-hmm. If I shared with them good news, right? This is a good way to kind of see who a good friend is. But if I was to tell them something good that has happened for me, mm-hmm. would they genuinely, wholeheartedly be happy for me? Mm-hmm. Or would they just say that to my face and say something else behind my back? Mm-hmm. And I think that you want to surround yourself with more of the people in that first category, which mm-hmm. is, you want people that you share something that is good in your life and they are genuinely happy for you. Mm-hmm. And I think there are very few people in people's lives that they have like that, you know, apart from people like your parents or your partner, you know, or business partner or whatever that looks like. Outside of that, people are scared that if you achieve something good, it's a reflection of them and the actions that they didn't take in their life. And I think that causes them a greater level of discomfort. And it's this theory of crabs in a bucket, where as soon as one crab starts to see the edge of the bucket, someone else pulls him back down. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a cultural thing. But as an individual, as a business owner, if you're trying to start something, one of the most powerful things you can do is separate yourself from the people that are actively working against you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.